All I'm going to say is I never should have watched Tavon Austin's college mixtape before starting the Panthers game, and I actually did. I actually was watching Tavon Austin return punts at WVU with Kid Ink in the background. You can tell them that I've been through hell and back. And that is what it was like watching Marcus Jones all day on Sunday. Here are the numbers. 3 returns, 167 yards and a touchdown, an average of 55.7 yards per return. That wasn't the only problem for the Panthers. It was a mess with few positives to glean. And I did glean some positives. I did, and we'll go into those. But largely it was a disastrous game. I thought you were going to be able to hold on to that high a little bit. Sort of like when you're leaving the bar and you know you're going to go home and hit the couch and fall right asleep. You're not going to get hungover right away. Well, no, the Panthers were riding the high of that game against Atlanta and they instantly got hungover. It instantly was over. There was no easy night of rest. There was no waking up feeling like you're sleeping on a cloud and going for a morning walk to walk off the rest of it. No, that was awful. The Patriots walked all over you. And I didn't expect that at all. I told you, I said, I think if the Pats are going to win, it's going to be Drake May being an elite quarterback, Drake May going over the top and playing better than Bryce Young. Here are the numbers at half. Bryce Young, 11 of 20, 112 yards and a touchdown. So that's pretty much his full game of work right there. That is pretty much all you're going to get from Bryce Young typically. I said it. It's 150 yards and a touchdown. That's usually what you can expect from Bryce Young in a good game on average. If you eliminate the really bad games, if you eliminate the games week 1 and week 2 of 2025 and 2024, and you eliminate the other outliers, the 5-touchdown game against Atlanta in 2024 at the end of the season, that's about what you're going to get from your quarterback. 112 and a touchdown, 11 of 20, no turnovers. At half. Drake May, 8 of 9, 95 yards. Passing, 1 rush, 5 yards, and a touchdown on the ground for the Patriots quarterback. The story is anything but that, though. The Patriots completely destroyed you on special teams. You gave them short fields. They obviously had the 88-yard punt return for a touchdown. We're going to go into all of that. Tons of storylines from today. I think the craziest thing I saw all day was the video of David Tepper after the game. Newton is in the tunnel recording David Tepper. He's walking around like an angry boss in Mario. Like, what's that guy? There's Luigi and then the big guy. He's like, just walking around grunting to himself. Angry. He was incredibly angry, and it was a good, probably want to turn the phone volume down when you play that video on David Newton's X. A good reminder to do that. Keep your phone volume down when talking to David Tepper, especially if you're Dave Canales. Here's how the Panthers coach had to sound after the game.
Well, just the collective execution, when it happens in all phases, I'm the common denominator, and I have to take responsibility for that. I have to make sure that I'm pushing the guys the right way. I have to evaluate what we're doing, how we're working, how we're preparing our guys. I felt confident about that part, but we're not getting the results, and so this is something where I have to really just press in and making sure that we're not overlooking anything and making sure we're having the right combination of guys out there in every phase.
Canales and Tepper both do angry a lot differently. Canales is more of like a sassy angry. Tepper is just the grunt. Head down. He's probably resembling somewhat of what it would sound like to be part of the Georgia fan section during a win. He's just grunting to himself. And they're angry, and I would love to be a fly on the wall right now in Carolina. I think it would be a fascinating thing because there's just so much going on with the personnel, so many fingers getting pointed. I think here Canales talking about the combination of guys on the field. I think he's referring to the special teams. He uses the word every phase. There are some questionable decisions about who you had out there on defense, but I think special teams is something they've been hemming and hawing, just working on. How many gunners have they signed? A Caleb Evans, Dalevon Campbell, Bryson Tremaine, Dan Chisna, the guy they just brought back who was here last year. They just keep overthinking that position. And then the first punt of the game is an 88-yard touchdown where Caleb Evans just doesn't, he has his arms wrapped around Marcus Jones, but he thinks it's a fair catch. He doesn't bring him down. There's 4 Panthers, there's 1 Marcus Jones, and you make him look like he's West Virginia Tavon Austin in his prime. And then you look at the numbers throughout the day. 3 punt returns, 167 yards, and a touchdown for Patriots punt returners, all of which were Marcus Jones, 55.7 yards per return. And they probably spend a full-time job just trying to evaluate the gunner position. It seems that way. How many freaking gunners are they going to go through? And the gunner is why Jimmy Horn isn't even on the field. You don't have Jimmy Horn on the field because you need Campbell out there. You need another guy who doesn't know how to play receiver. So Tremaine is your main gunner. He's been put into this more prominent role, so you bring in Campbell. But then David Moore gets hurt, so you have to put Campbell on the field, and he can't play. Meanwhile, Xavier Legette and Jimmy Horn are on the sidelines with hoodies on. So the 2 guys that can catch the ball are on the sideline with freaking hoodies on because you're obsessed with the gunners, and the gunners get in the game and they can't tackle. It's really unbelievable, and I blame Canales a lot for that because that's his choice. And he has a seat at the table when it comes to the personnel, making the decisions in the offseason, but he certainly is the main person overseeing who's on the field. And that's who they're putting out there. They'd rather have Campbell and Bryson Tremaine. Tremaine's been pretty good, but they'd rather have this concoction of gunners who can't tackle than Jimmy Horn on the field. So I blame the coach for that. I blame the coach for not having ownership over the personnel. And this issue is, it's similar to a spider web. Like there's a little epicenter, but then it just branches out in a million different directions. So it starts with the special teams. This is where you see it. But if you keep looking, you notice it just spreads in a million different directions. Some people are saying that Xavier Legette is part of this, and that Xavier Legette was on the sideline inactive today due to not an injury, not the hamstring lingering on into becoming a 2-week thing. Xavier Legette instead is inactive due to Canales' discretion. I'm going to wait for this to develop. I don't know. Who knows how serious the injury is? I remember a couple weeks ago looking at his gait. His stride was just way off. But is Canales purposely keeping Legette on the bench to protect the wide receiver? I don't tend to buy into that conspiracy unless Canales is just downright lying to us all the time, which could be the case. I mean, that's public relations, right? But I tend to believe that if you're buying into what Canales is saying at all, if everything is a lie, then I can't help anyone. But if Canales is giving us some truth, well, a couple weeks ago, he's talking about giving Legette more opportunities. Legette is struggling. Legette has no rapport with the quarterback. Bryce Young would rather throw it in the dirt than throw it to Legette, literally. And Canales is sitting there saying he wants to get Legette more opportunities. So maybe he is just everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. Maybe. I don't know if I buy into Xavier Legette purposely being held out by Canales. I don't know. But you can talk about this, which is some of the decisions on defense. So again, Canales saying, I need to make sure we have the right combination of guys out there in every phase. Every phase is the word he uses. So to me, that's like, I need to make sure that I'm the principal. And I need to make sure that each teacher in each room is teaching kids the right way. Like if you walk in and one teacher is politicizing the kids, the other one's watching an R-rated movie while this one's doing arithmetic, you need to hold your defensive coordinator and your special teams coach, who's your guy, who's feeding the children R-rated films, watching Stephen King in 3rd grade. You need to be in that room holding them accountable. And I think that's what he's saying. And I think some of that has to do with the defense. The defense, you had DJ Johnson starting at edge today. I don't even get that. I don't get that. I know Yellen is a situational pass rusher. I know that's probably his ceiling as a player. I don't think he's a run stopper. I don't think he's great against the run. I don't know if he's ever going to be an every down player. I think he might be a career situational pass rusher. There's a ton of players who make careers, who make tons of money doing that. There's a ton of guys who make salaries doing that. Millions, tens of millions even. But even on third down, this is the first drive of the game. I think it was a 3rd and 5. The Patriots went 3 and out, and they ultimately got a false start on 4th. The crowd was booing the Patriots during this game. So the crowd actually was turning on their own team at one point amidst a 42-14 victory. That's New England Patriots fans. I was once part of that. I was once part of the boos. Believe me. But it's 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. It's an obvious passing situation. And Yellen's on the bench. You have DJ Johnson rushing Drake May. Like, are you kidding me? The same Princely Yellen that had a sack 3rd and 6 against the Cardinals went one-on-one against a good tackle, Jonah Williams, and beat him. And he's on the bench? So I question that. Well, let's talk about the overall viability of the defense. Here is Canales with what I believe is a statement about the Panthers defense. Here's the coach.
I love the effort. I love the way the guys are flying around, and we have to find the balance of being overly aggressive in certain situations and just making sure we're in good position, good leverage to make the play. And again, I have to be able to evaluate that and make sure that we understand that.
This to me sounds less about the personnel decisions, who you put onto the field. This sounds more like, these guys can't play. And the linebackers and safeties might lack real football instincts to actually be able to figure this thing out. And that we all should probably be concerned that Dan Morgan has to meet with Trevin Wallace, the GM, this is not precedented. People don't do this. GMs don't do this. They don't meet with the players to study film. The GM of the Bills, the GM of the Seahawks, they're not meeting with the guys saying, all right, you see this is what you got to do here, and this is what you got to do here, and you bit a little bit here, you were too aggressive, you went through the wrong gap, and if you were here and you shed the block this way and you're looking there, then you might have been able to make a play here. The GM's not doing that. The GM's talking about the 2026 draft. The GM is talking about free agency. The GM is not sitting down with the inside linebacker because the inside linebacker can't figure it out. And Trevin Wallace, I don't think was terrible this game. I'm throwing him a little bit under the bus. It's just because he's an illustration of what I'm talking about. But when Canales says we need to be able to balance being overly aggressive and when to maintain leverage and make the play, two guys step into that stand out to me. DJ Johnson, Nick Scott. DJ Johnson, they attacked this guy all day. They said, you know what? Nick Scorton actually looks pretty good, so we're going to run in the opposite direction of the weak link. You don't have Pat Jones. You don't have DJ Wanham. You don't have Yellen out there. That's why I think it would have been key to put him out there. Instead, we're going to attack DJ Johnson all day. Ramondre Stevenson, anyone. Doesn't matter who it is. Anyone. They're faster than him to the sideline. Get to the sideline. Do the end-around thing. Do the stretch runs. We'll beat you there. And they had multiple 20-yard runs on one day, just on one drive, attacking DJ Johnson the whole time. He was notorious for being in the wrong spot at the wrong time. I think the other play that killed him too was that little Steph Diggs, almost like a deep crosser route. And he just knew exactly where Nick Scott and Lathan Ransom were going to be. He got Scott and Ransom on one play. I think they both could have made a play there. They were covering Ransom was caught up with the guy going over the top. And May just said, you know what? Tossed it right in, dropped it right in the zone. There's a big empty ocean. Anyone could have made that throw. It's one of those throws where you can be drinking a beer during the game, watching it, and say, I could have made that throw, and people have to believe you because it would have been true. Anyone could have made that throw. They had Steph Diggs a couple of times. Now, the one where Mike Jackson got beat, that was a really good throw by Drake May. That was a good play. Receiver and quarterback on the same page. But there were a couple times where Diggs beat them. He attacked that zone, knew exactly where to be and where the Panthers defense was going to be. And that, to me, what stands out is this is the front office. That's the front office. Not having a good safety behind Moehrig, not having more depth on defense, not having other wide receivers to deal with some of the adversity that you've dealt with Thielen being in Minnesota and David Moore getting hurt today, Coker getting injured, not having another guy you really trust. And I give him a little bit more of a pass there. Like, you couldn't have foresaw all that at receiver. That's a little bit of getting unlucky. But you had all offseason. You had 2 off seasons to fix these problems. You had 2 off seasons. And the Patriots spent $200 million on the first day of free agency. They were the more talented team today. They wanted to win more this offseason. They had a bunch of linebackers. Jack Gibbons, 1 year, $1.3 million. Good linebacker from Tennessee, signed with the Patriots. He's a guy that was in your wheelhouse. You could have had him. Xavier Woods in Tennessee, another one. Julian Blackman. You just go through the list. I'm not going to do that to you again. I'm not going to bore you with all the names of guys you should have signed. But I think when you see Nick Scott continually missing plays, when you don't really have a sound environment for Lathan Ransom and some of these edge rushers as well, you don't have another guy besides DJ Johnson or Nick Scott to be your bridge player, I blame the GM. And I blame Tepper for it, because I don't even think Dan Morgan really cares about who they sign and who they don't. I think he wants to make good signings. I think he wants to build a good system of talent. He's not the one writing the checks. David Moore is the one, or David Tepper is the one. It probably is David Moore, honestly. David Moore probably is running this whole organization. Like freaking Yoda. Not going to spend money. No, we're not spending money. We are. Tepper. He is the one. He is the one that chooses to write the checks. He didn't. Look, the Patriots realized they missed on their second round pick, Jalen Polk, who I think was taken right around where Leggett was taken. What do? They sign Steph Diggs. What do? They spend a ton of money to get a receiver who might be a threat. He might end up on a yacht in another country doing gosh knows what with Cardi B. Someone might get pregnant. They don't care. They're taking the risk. They're bringing the guy in because it's important to win. It's important. And you can go down the list of transactions between the Patriots and the Panthers. And I know the cap situation in New England is much different. They had $100 million or something to spend in cap. The Panthers, I think right now it's like $13 million. I get that. I get it. But you could have signed at least some of the cheap guys, the smaller fish, and you probably could have had a Robert Spillane or a Carlton Davis or someone like that too. Not that you would need Carlton Davis. Mike Jackson's been great, but you get my point. Here is Canales one more time. Canales, he took a lot of blame today. Here is the Panthers coach.
When it's a full team effort like this, I have to put that on myself. I have to look at how I'm preparing the team, how we're going about our work. I have to look at that and compete to find an edge to get these guys to work together, to focus, so we can get the execution that we're seeing happen in our processes. But this is the only way to work through these things, is to go right back to work.
They should get rid of the death penalty and just make everyone who commits heinous acts of violence and crime listen to Dave Canales' press conferences for the rest of their life. That's maybe too dark for this show. I don't know. But you know what I mean? It's the same recycled crap all over and over and over and over again. And he does say it's a team effort, and he does take full accountability and responsibility for this, which I give him a lot of credit for. Because I think his standard response, like when you put him on autopilot, it's, the turnovers were a problem. Bryce Young turnovers. He actually doesn't say Bryce Young's name. He just blames the turnovers perpetually. I blame Canales for the personnel stuff, the structural stuff. For example, if he's benching Xavier Legette purposely right now, we'll have to talk about that. And I think Legette does need a little bit of a hiatus/vacation, but to fully keep him inaccessible would be a little bit of a stretch, if true. I want to talk about this. I haven't dissected this yet, which is the play calling. That first 3rd and long, so it's 3rd and 15, I believe. There's a play to be had. There's a play to be had when the Panthers have the 3rd down and they end up punting it to the Patriots, who return it 88 yards. Marcus Jones returns it 88 yards for the touchdown, a complete special teams collapse. It's 3rd and 10. You're at New England's 45. What do? You hand it to Rico Dowdle for a gain of 2 yards. I didn't hate the play call in the moment because you're coming off the high of the special teams and the defense carrying you through the win at Atlanta. You pin them inside the 10 twice. We're going to talk more about the quarterback later, but generally just know Dave Canales doesn't trust the quarterback a ton. It's always been that way since week 1 of 2024. His play calling is pretty much always a reflection of the quarterback. It's distrust. It's conservative. It's no risk taking. And I liked that. You're up a touchdown or 6-0, and you say, we'll pin them inside the 10. We have the best punter in football right now. We invest so much in our gunner. We spend hours. We spend a full work week thinking about the gunner. We know we'll pin them inside the 10. We know it. And what happens? Both your gunners get down there. They're kind of scratching their butt. And Marcus Jones fools everyone on the field and takes it 87 yards for a touchdown. And I think that's why Canales is so upset after the game, because his players didn't bail him out on that one. They made him look awful. They made him look terrible on that one. And I didn't hate it in the moment. I won't lie to you. I didn't hate it. Now, I did research deeper, and I did come to this conclusion. The first 3rd and long, where the Panthers gave it to Dowdle for 2 yards, pretty much accepted defeat and punted it to the Patriots, who returned it for a touchdown. You're coming off a first drive where the offense moved the ball well. I think, I'm reading the notes here from the game. I go through every drive. I don't even want to count it. There's too many. There's too many, capital GREAT. Great play call, great throw, great job, Young. In asterisks here, all caps, Canales and Young combined, best drive all season, hands down, the first drive of the game. It was amazing. They looked great. On the first play, you have David Moore on the end around. They had no idea it was coming. You go 10 yards. You hurt his arm, unfortunately, on that one. The Patriots had some dumb penalties. Carlton Davis had the face mask. I think Young had like one bad throw on the drive, but then he has the awesome touchdown pass to Tommy Tremble. And I was like, they should have rode that high. It's 3rd and 10. Canales should have some faith in the quarterback on the second drive of the game. Instead of running it and saying, let's just punt it, whatever, we'll pin him inside the 10. Throw it downfield. Give your quarterback a risk. Let him step up to the plate. And he didn't. He didn't do that. So here is Dave Canales talking about Bryce Young's future as starting quarterback of the team.
Absolutely. Counting on him to keep pushing us forward. Counting on him to keep us on track. You know, there were some near misses across the board, some penalties that put us in weird situations, a couple of protection issues, and one of them where he slipped and kind of put us in a bad situation. But I still feel that he's being confident out there. He's leading the group. He's getting us out there with good energy and focus. And so he'll continue to play.
I wanted to play that first before talking about the second 3rd and long where the Panthers chose to run it, essentially accepting defeat. They punted again. So 2 third and longs, Canales doesn't trust the quarterback. He'd rather run it to Dowdle, knowing it's going to be 4th down, knowing you're probably not going to get them off guard and gain 15 yards. He doesn't trust the quarterback to throw it down the field. And he gets burnt on it twice. Marcus Jones the second time. And again, his return numbers. 3 returns, 167 yards, 1 touchdown, averaging 55.7 yards per return. And he deserves to get burnt. Canales deserves to get burnt on that second punt return. You should have learned your lesson. You punted it to him the first time. He takes it 87 yards down the field for a touchdown. You go back to that same river. You go back to the same poisonous source of food. You get poisoned again. You know it's going to happen. And he kept barking up that tree, knowing what's on the other side of it. Knowing what was going to happen. And that is why I blame Canales for the play calling. I honestly think, I don't remember them having more than 1 or 2 shots down the field. They had the one in the 4th quarter where they turn it over on downs. In the first half, I think they only had 1 throw that was past 10 yards past the line of scrimmage. So not even throwing it deep. They're not even throwing it on intermediate routes. It's just dink and duck, check it down. And I like that. When your defense is playing really well, when your special teams is playing good. But you got to read the room if you're the Panthers coach. And eventually, I think he needs to just put his chips into the middle of the table. He's playing poker. This is your hand. Bryce Young is who you have, Dave. This is my message to Dave Canales. Bryce Young is who you have. You can't control it. Don't get so caught up in your fear of the quarterback. In your fear he's going to do something so terribly dumb. Don't get caught up in that. Just call the game how you normally call it. You just gave up an 87-yard touchdown. It's 3rd and long again. Throw it downfield. If they get an interception, whatever. Marcus Jones is going to return it to the house anyway. He's Tavon Austin. He's averaging 55.7 yards per return. What's the worst thing that's going to happen if you throw it down the field? What is the worst thing that's going to happen? And I do sound a little bit hypocritical because I know I'm the one telling you, like, dink and duck, take what's underneath, let these guys run with the ball after the catch. And I have been saying that. But if you're down 20 points, if you're getting your butt kicked in New England, you got to take some risks. You got to trust the quarterback. So we're going to go into this final clip, and then we're done. This one's going to be quick. Here's Derek Brown on the loss.
We want to be a player-run team. We want to be a player-led team to where, it doesn't matter what he calls. It doesn't matter what Dave and Brad call. Or Tracy. We want to go out there and have execution at the highest level so we can enjoy the fruits of our labor, you know what I'm saying?
What would this video be without an overreaction? I'm going to end with an overreaction. Has Canales given way too much power to these players? Is he so hands-off he's not even involving himself in a lot of the integral processes to making a successful product? Derek Brown calls the team a player-led team. It's a player-led team. And I think that only goes so far. That only goes so far. Because how much of that is, well, it's just recess, let the students run the class. And I think there's a little bit of that with Canales. Earlier this offseason, he said he doesn't make the team run gassers. Bryce Young and Chuba Hubbard, after that terrible loss to the Texans in the preseason, they're lining them up on the sideline to do the gassers, where they run sideline to sideline, do sprints. Canales doesn't believe in that because his practice is already so difficult. And I think there is an element of that, where maybe you can question whether or not he's able to get some of these guys to buy in. And that whole Pete Carroll charm, that charisma that gets the most out of these players, makes them step up to the plate, puts Hunter Renfrow in the game, and he's able to make plays because the coach sets him up to be successful. I don't know. How bought into that are you? How bought into the Canales system are you? After that loss, the tone is much like a cold day at the beach. One toe in, one toe out. I am out. I'm concerned about the Panthers coach. This is the tone. Final announcement. I am going home. So I'm not going to be here this week. I'm going to have my microphone with me, and I'm going to try to scavenge and find a place to record. If not, I will 100,000,000% be back on Monday next week, but I'm going to try to give you an episode. I'm going to really try to do it. I have to go home. There's a charity event. Some things going on at home. A couple family events as well. And I'm going to need to make a podcast work. My parents are very gracious. They have found a secure location to transport the tone. He will be flying via Air Force One. They will transport him via Air Force One to the secret location to record the podcast. So I'm hoping it will happen, but I'm not 100% sure. This is the tone.